We're back here on CBS Sports HQ, where the college football playoff is around the corner with the first big notable date to know is tonight. The final college football playoff rankings released at 7 p.m. Eastern time. And then, of course, this upcoming Sunday is Selection Day. The first round of the college football playoffs will begin the week of Christmas, December 20th, with the quarterfinals being New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, and then the semifinals January 8th and 9th before the national championship not too far from our Fort Lauderdale studios in Miami. For much more on the college football playoff, let's go ahead and welcome in our own Brad Crawford. Brad, great to see you. Let's start, though, with what has been for weeks the biggest story in college football, and that's surrounding Lane Kiffin's departure from Ole Miss. There's been a lot of speculation on how the committee is actually going to handle Kiffin's departure from the Rebels. We've seen the committee dock Florida State a couple of years ago because of an injury to their quarterback. How do you think the committee handles a coach leaving right before the playoffs?
I think there's a chance the committee drops Ole Miss in that 8th range, but I've got Ole Miss number 7 tonight staying put after beating Mississippi State in the Egg Bowl. I think it was essential, Jordan, for Ole Miss to make a quick hire after losing Lane Kiffin to LSU, and they did that by promoting Pete Golding. That has to be viewed as a positive to this committee during these penultimate rankings. It's very important, too. Hunter Yurachek, the committee chair, said last week that this would be an additional data point the committee would use when grading/judging Ole Miss. And I just don't see Ole Miss losing a first-round home game opportunity and moving into that 9 or 10 seed range after beating Mississippi State. This is a team that's deserving of a first-round home game, and at 11-1 overall, it's hard to argue any different.
Yeah, and we'll see if the committee agrees with that point. One of the tougher decisions the committee will have seems to be what they do with Notre Dame and Miami. The committee has consistently put Notre Dame ahead of Miami, despite the Hurricanes winning that head-to-head matchup earlier this season. So, Brad, we're putting you on the spot here. Who should get in and why?
I think Notre Dame, based on what the committee has showed us these last 4 weeks. Miami's playing just as well as Notre Dame right now. I know Miami has a head-to-head win in that opener over Notre Dame. However, these teams are a little bit different now 2.5 months later, and that's what the committee has told us these last 4 Tuesday nights when Notre Dame has been ranked ahead of Miami. That head-to-head result had just not come into conversation yet because these teams are not in the same tier. They're on the same pod, according to the committee chair, but they're not on the same wavelength as far as which one's better. The committee clearly thinks Notre Dame is better. Obviously, Notre Dame down the stretch has not played with its food. Miami hasn't either. But I think Notre Dame tonight is going to get one of those last seeds in, whether that's number 9 or number 10. Perhaps they slide behind Alabama. That's what would make it easy on the committee. If the committee moves Alabama to number 9 tonight and Notre Dame at 10, then Alabama's in regardless of a result against Georgia. And then the only team that could get Notre Dame out of the playoff is BYU with a win over Texas Tech in the Big 12 championship.
We've got a second tough decision for you as Texas took down the undefeated Aggies. They're tied for the most top 10 wins in the country, and it seems like they passed the eye test at this point in the season. On the other hand, though, you have Oklahoma, who has one less loss, but their offense has been reeling as of lately. Who do you think deserves to get in there?
I mean, I think Texas is playing better football right now than Oklahoma is. The committee is not going to agree with me. Obviously, Texas has the win over Oklahoma head-to-head as well. But Oklahoma does not have a bad loss. That right now is why the Sooners are ranked ahead of Texas and why ultimately Oklahoma is going to get a playoff bid and Texas will not. Texas has a loss at Florida. The Gators have just won 2 games since beating Texas back in September. And that was a game that Texas just did not play its best football in. Steve Sarkisian, he can pound the table all he wants that his team is deserving of a playoff bid, but you're 9-3 overall. No other playoff team besides Alabama could potentially get in with a 3rd loss if the Tide lose this weekend. So I think Texas does not have an argument right now. There's no clear path for the Longhorns to make this 12-team bracket.
You know, going back to Miami, it seems like we've been talking about the ACC doomsday scenario for a couple weeks now, and it's looking like a very real possibility that the ACC misses out on the CFP entirely. How likely is that we don't see an ACC team get in, and who would that open the door for?
It would certainly open the door for James Madison if the Dukes beat Troy in the Sun Belt Championship game. Now, the big issue with that right now, Jordan, is James Madison's strength of schedule. According to metrics, I looked at this morning, is around 118. Duke's is 70. Now, if Duke beats a top 20 Virginia team Saturday night in Charlotte in the ACC Championship game, Duke's strength of schedule, strength of record, game control, all those metrics could improve. So James Madison certainly could get that bid as the 11 seed over Duke, and no ACC team gets in. However, I still think that if Duke beats Virginia Saturday night, somehow a 5-loss Duke team just might make that field.
That is absolutely insane. Well, so you mentioned JMU. We're essentially down to 3 teams from the group of 5. The winner, of course, of Tulane, North Texas, and then you got JMU for the group of 5 pick. Who do you give the edge to?
Yeah, North Texas has been my G5 favorite the last month of the season. I think Drew Mestemaker at quarterback is a future NFL player. He's been solid right now for the Mean Green. Obviously, a lot of these coaches, all 3 in fact, John Summerall from Tulane took the Florida job, Eric Morris is at Oklahoma State from North Texas, and then Bob Chesney now taking the UCLA job. So all 3 of these G5 teams have outgoing coaches, but all have said they're going to stick around for championship weekend and this playoff run. So of these 3 G5 teams, I think North Texas is best suited to potentially win a playoff game.
Wouldn't Haley be excited about that? Isn't that Haley's team?
Yes, that's her squad. She's so
going
fired
to be
up.
fired up if that comes to fruition. We'll wait and see. But tonight is the night the final college football playoff rankings will be released, 7 Eastern. You're going to walk us through, Brad, your top 12. And just to preface, this isn't what you think the committee will do, but what you think it should look like.
Right. I think Texas A&M slides out of the top 4 tonight after losing to Texas. Obviously, A&M needed to win that game against the Longhorns last weekend to make the SEC championship game. That's not going to happen. Oregon now moves in at number 5 with Texas A&M going to 6. I think BYU is going to be the first team out tonight as a 1-loss Big 12 team as the 11 seed. Miami probably staying put at number 12. Now you have to remember, Jordan, that those 11 and 12 seeds, they're essentially placeholders. The 11 seed is going to be the ACC champion, and the 12 seed is going to be the G5 champion. So BYU and Miami, if I'm a fan of those 2 teams right now, I'm sort of, sitting on pins and needles tonight, waiting to see where the committee puts the Cougars and the Canes.
We will see how it all plays out. It's just wild that it's already here, the regular season done, the college football playoff on the horizon. Brad Crawford, always great to see you, my friend, live here on CBS Sports HQ. There's another look at the notable dates. Get out your pen and paper and write this in your calendar. Of course, tonight, 7 Eastern, the final CFP rankings. Selection day, though, on Sunday. First round of the playoffs begin the week of Christmas and the national championship, Monday, January 19th.